Good to have you back. We're now here to start looking at some of the issues that we have raised for discussion today. I'm still here with Theophilus Ukoha.
Yeah, very much alive, and then we want you to stay with us as we go ahead in the discussion of what is...
the development of seaports in the eastern part of Nigeria, and we'll have guests that has joined us to look at that. They are Captain Francis Anyukwa. He's an sea captain, and he is here to help us look at this. You're welcome, Captain.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay. And seated next to him is Comrade Anthony Anyebue. He is an electronics engineer. Welcome, Tony.
I don't even prefer engineer or comrade. Both of them.
All of them both.
Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Okay, electrical electronics engineer.
Yeah.
Okay, you're welcome, Tony.
Thank you.
Okay, you may be wondering why seaports today, but you know that our seaport is a facility which can accommodate ships which go out to the sea. Let's give you a little definition of what we are talking about. And you know that in this part of the country, we are blessed with big oceans and rivers, perhaps. And that's why we are privileged to have 4 out of 6 ports, major ports in Nigeria. Talking about the Calabar port in Cross River State, One
I think it's up to 8.
No, One and Rivers and Port Harcourt ports in River State. That's a very prominent ones. And then you have Warri Port in Delta State. But incidentally, most of these ports are either moribund or functioning as a very low ebb. And what is the problem? That is what we are here to find out. Okay. Now, recently, the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osibanjo, while inspecting exhibitions mounted by Nigerian American Chamber of Commerce in Kaduna, said that the federal government is committed to revitalizing seaports in the eastern part of Nigeria. And then some of us have started asking, why now? Let's start with you, Tony.
Thank you very much. Actually, the issue of seaports in the eastern part of Nigeria has been a very serious issue. I want to remind you that as far back as the time of General Gowon, the issue of the seaports in the eastern part has been a problem. There have been so many concessions, so many contracts awarded to companies to do justice to the seaports. More especially, one of the problems that bedeviled seaports in the east is shallow depths. Shallow depths in the sense that most of these ports are filled with mud, seabed mud, such a way that large ships cannot dock.
Has it been like that? Or since after it was abandoned?
Well, like if you now remember when I mentioned, I got back to early 70s, you understand that it had been a very long time problem. And none of these contracts for the dragging of the seabed had been completed. The only one that had a little depth with which ship can dock a little is that of Warri Port. That is the one that is partly functioning now. The rest of the other 3, like you mentioned, are all filled with mud. The ship cannot dock. So it's a very big problem. And for the past, if you get back to that 40 years or thereabout, you know it's a very long time. So that has been the problem of this dock.
That has been the problem. Yes. Like a sea captain, Captain Anyekwa, could you please tell us more on the background of seaports in the eastern part of Nigeria?
Yeah, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
During my sea going experience, I was opportune to sail through some of the seaports in Nigeria. Actually, most of my sea time, career was done outside. Having worked in Kuwait for 10 years.
Oh, really?
Yes, I was, in charge of shipping Kuwait crude oil to foreign countries like United States, Japan, and Europe. For 2 years, I worked on Nigeria shipping line, and then I was privileged to go through some of these ports, like Warri and Calabar. You see.
It's very beautiful. Then this one is Niger Bridge.
You see.
Sure, it's Niger. Has to be River Bridge.
Casting my mind back, the route to those ports were not developed because as a result of silting, that is accumulation of mud, progressively made navigation very difficult.
Was that the reason why the port stops functioning?
No, apart from that, I think that has political undertone to it.
I want to hear it.
You see, political undertone, well, it depends on people that make the policies.
Okay.
If the government of the day decides to say ships should not go to this port, there's nothing you can do.
Without reason?
I don't know. I'm not a politician.
Okay.
When my colleague was doing introduction, he said all these seaports are moribund.
Yes.
And if you come to look at it, I think it is really like that. Okay. And your own analysis, we're looking at some of them are filled with mud. And then a kind of no great work has been done to really revitalize them. When do how do we get to this stage? Is it because we don't have engineers? Or is it because there was no much funding into the seaport business? Yeah. How do we get there?
See, when my colleagues speaking, he mentioned about some political will. The issue here is the political will of the government to get the ports dredged. Like what I have here now said, a total of 754 vessels dumped the eastern ports in the country within the period of 3 years due to shallow depths and pirate attack. You see, so when you also discuss this issue of shallowness, you also discuss piracy that also affects seafaring vessels. But the most important, like we have all pointed out, is the political will of the government to get the right thing done. Mm-hmm. It's not that we don't have competent construction engineers, dredging engineers that can get down there and clear those sails. The issue is that what is the mind of the government concerned? Because, like I told you, Gowon's government awarded contracts. From then up till now, contracts has always been awarded for the dredging of those seaports. But incidentally, nothing comes out of it at the end. Why is the government keeping quiet? Like my brother said, if the government decides to make a port functional, it will make it functional because it has the money. You get the point? There's the money to make sure that this port starts functioning. But the problem is that, personally, I would say it as if there is a kind of a policy of economic strangulation of the eastern side of this country.
Okay, let's start with that. We'll come back to that. You were a captain in this very port authority. You were a captain?
No, I was still going captain, not in the port authority.
Okay. Now, but you have the Nigerian Port Authority as the federal government agency in charge of all these seaports.
Yeah.
Are you trying to let us know that they are also moribund?
No, they are not moribund. They are still functional, but it depends on where they channel the activity. Right?
They are the Nigerian Port Authority.
Yes.
They govern and operate the ports of Nigeria.
Yes.
And the major ports, as we listed them,
yes.
My colleague said 4, as against 8. 6. Okay, 6. Yes. As against 8, which we know that exists in Nigeria. But almost all of them are more, but we will have this federal agency in charge of all this.
Yes.
Does it mean that they're not up to the responsibility?
Well, as I earlier said, political undertone. Then secondly, if the government decides to say Warri Port should be functional, they have to employ everything that will make it functional. One, dredging. After dredging, while it is being dredged, it is buoyed. You put buoys, marker buoys, to tell the navigator, this is the way to go. Don't go this way, go this way. These things need expertise and money. Okay? Once you make it the channels navigable, because Warri Port from the ocean to the Warri Port itself is quite a distance. And then in those days they were employing non-certificated pilots. As a captain, when I get to a port, I don't have to take the ship to the inside the port. There must be a pilot that knows the terrain, because anything can happen anytime. Danger can happen anytime. It is only somebody that is around that will know. So you have certificated pilots. Most of them previously seagoing captains that knows the rudiments of the profession.
Are you saying there are no more there?
What did you say?
Are you saying there are no more there? These pilots and
pilots are there, but the one that we are employing then were local pilots.
Okay.
You see, and then there were a lot of dangers.
We want to see how these seaports can be developed.
Yes.
Tony, you said something that there seems to be a policy of economic strangulation for this part of the country. I don't know what I mean by that, but I know that most of the goods that docked and are cleared in Tinkan and Apapa Island in Lagos are eastern bound. Yeah. So why won't they develop the ports in the east so that these goods will come directly here and then ease the problem for the importers?
Are you aware that right now as I'm talking to you, there is an attempt to set up a dry port in Kaduna? Establishment of dry ports in Kaduna is to encourage the economic development of the area.
What do you mean by dry ports?
A dry port is a kind of
a seaport without a sea.
A kind of, let me call it a garage for containers. Now, when the containers arrive at the seaport, they are all hauled to what we can call inland ports. For instance, the Onitsha Airport, Onitsha Seaport should be an inland port, because not all large seafaring vessels can reach that way because of the shallowness of the river Niger. But and
there's been this politics of the dredging over the years, the dredging the river Niger.
Some people in Nigerian policy making, but they are not interested. I've listened to a debate of this nature about a week ago, where the officer of the Nigerian Port Authority was there. So many other correspondents, people were there discussing this seaport issue. The point was raised that actually Nigerian government had not been very sincere in encouraging the eastern economic development. And based on that, you know that seaport is one of the factors that will encourage development of an area, because there is not much aircraft can bring into a place. There is not much land transport can also bring in. So the biggest aspect of haulage that can take place is sea. So when you make sure that the sea, for instance, like I talk about the Kaduna dry port, it's the government that's developing the Kaduna dry port. Now if the government can go into the hinterland of Kaduna to develop dry port there, and then ship and the containers are already arriving there, why can't our seaports in the east be developed too?
Okay.
So the point I'm trying to make is that if the government is sincere